Star Wars Rebels Season 4, Episodes 7 and 8, Kindred and Crawler Commanders. So, these two episodes, I think, so far have been probably the least connected, like, two-parter. Technically wasn't a two-parter, but I felt like even the last two episodes were, more connected, because this one was like, the first part was them kind of going through this journey, utilizing the Force and, like, the Loth-cats and the Wolves, which is really, really crazy, especially the reveal, towards the end of the episode. And then the second half was really like, alright, so we got to basically this mining ship, and then that was pretty much the entire episode. So they felt really disconnected. Still two really great episodes. It was just like, this definitely felt like if it was only one episode a week, I could see it more in these two because they felt, so different from each other, even though, of course, it was still that natural progression. But both episodes were fun. It's hard to say which one I like more because the first one I loved, of course, because of like the crazy Force aspect of it. Them revealing the fact that Kanan has something to do with whatever's about to happen. Like we find out that Doom is Kanan's real name. It's like his real last name. So I was like, all right, well that's pretty crazy. That's not what I was expecting. So we still don't know what that means, but that was a huge reveal. They have like this crazy hunter character. They actually dealt with a lot of like jumping characters in these two episodes. Like they had the hunter character going after them. He was mostly tracking Zeb. I don't know exactly what the deal was with that, but he could always smell Zeb. But he's jumping around, and he was actually a really cool character. And then they have like a speeder bike chase and stuff. I love that whole sequence. That was all really great. And then of course them having to trust the Loth-wolves and traveling halfway across the planet, and it was just like a crazy little sequence. So I love that whole thing. And then the second episode was really cool as well, where it was just a nice action episode, and like a lot of cool things happen. Some darker stuff happened, like the guy dying at the end, with Ezra fighting him. It was like, I don't know if that was like super dark or just like he kind of just let it happen. It was like I don't know how dark that is. So it was kind of weird because it's like it's Star Wars and he's supposed to be a Jedi, but they kill people anyway. That's kind of the whole point. Is that they're fighting a war, so that's gonna happen. But I don't know, something about it was like he could have stopped him, but it was just like he just let him fall and get like crushed and melted. And I was just like, I don't know if that was super dark or if that was just like they're fighting. So fair game. It was kind of a weird little moment. And Ezra was just like, oh look, he was just, he kind of made a joke about it, and then he got up and I was like, that dude died, like he melted and got crushed. And I was just like, that seemed oddly dark with him and being like making that joke about it. So it kind of made me laugh. But the first episode was really cool. We get to see Thrawn kind of come back, a little bit. I hope we get to see more of him. I'm sure we will because it's the final season. He's still technically the main villain. But I feel like we've only seen him in like little spurts. And whenever, typically when we see him, he's not actually interacting with the crew. Which makes sense because he's Grand Admiral Thrawn. So his thing is more the tactical side from, far away. But I like seeing him interact with them because he's still, he's still really good. Like he is a great fighter. Like we've seen that in the previous season. So, him being there, he could still kind of take them on, at least in some regards. But it's just like, man, I would love to see more of that. I would like to see him encountering them and having to deal with some of the physical elements more than just the tactical elements. Because I know now that he can handle both sides of it, even if it's not every single time. I'd like to see it at least, one more time with him, dealing with the physical side of facing the rebels. So I would love to see that, but in general, we get to see him in this episode, so that was still cool. And of course, he sends in his like super jumpy bounty hunter, and we go through the whole chase of him following Zeb and everything like that. So definitely cool. Like I said, I really enjoyed the first episode with them going through the action sequences, and then they get to the end of the episode, or kind of like the second half, really, where it's them actually trusting the wolves. And they travel through the planet or whatever, the Force, it gets super weird like that sometimes. You can teleport, it's crazy. So I just love that whole sequence, and everyone, actually remembers it too. That was another thing I actually enjoyed because it was like, I wonder if that's how it's going to always be. Like, Ezra seeing the wolves and maybe, Kanan seeing them at some point. And then everyone else is just like, no, I didn't see it. Maybe it's only if you have the Force. But everyone saw the wolves, and, it's like, we definitely experienced the fact that we were on the northern hemisphere and now we're on the southern hemisphere. So I just love that whole like element. And they end up kind of in like this little basically like little cities inside mountains, and I thought that was really sweet. So I definitely love that. They talk about some of the paintings and things like that before they end up going through the planet. But it was just a really cool moment. And then like I said, the reveal of Kanan having such a connection to whatever's coming up, I thought was very interesting. And of course, we still don't know what that means, but they say his name, and it was just like, that's intense, So I love that reveal. Like I said, it was just a great way to end off that first part, and then leading into the second part, the whole thing is that they have to deal with the aftermath of the last couple episodes, which is like, all right, we still need to basically make a signal or get a signal out to Hera to be like, hey, we're here, please come get us because we need some help. And we also have the hyperdrive. We also have the flight plans as well from the new TIE Defender. So it was like a lot of stuff was still happening, and so of course they end up traveling, and it's like, oh, well, this crawler out here has a satellite array that will allow us to basically get a signal that's strong enough out to Hera, and to just take time. We have to take it over, have to encrypt it, and all that extra stuff. So naturally things go wrong. They get on there, and I don't know what Ezra's deal is. He's just been failing left and right with like his fake communication stuff because he tries to cover for the guy that they beat up and do like all the snake S's and all that stuff in like the raspy voice. And of course they get busted, and it's like, the alarm went off. They should have beat that guy up. That was something I noticed. Like when they first go in, they took too much time talking to him and like freaking him out, and he was able to set the alarm off. And I was like, they should have just gone in and just been like, boom, judo chop, you're done. Like they should have just knocked him right out. And they just kept doing like the wrong stuff with that guy. They would put him, they're basically just keeping him super close to all the dangers. Like he was in the room where the main control was for the entire crawler, pretty much the entire episode, until he ended up escaping through the vent. And it was just like, man, they really should have been focusing on knocking him out. Like they were constantly like trying to hold him, like when they were doing the phone thing with Zeb like holding his mouth closed. I was like, why isn't he just knocking him out? Like that would be so much simpler for them if they just knocked this guy out. And I just kept thinking that through the entire episode. Just hit this dude in the head really, really hard, knock him unconscious. He can't scream because that's all he was doing every time they were either on the communications or like when the stormtroopers came in and they were wondering. And even I was wondering, I was like, well, how come this guy isn't screaming if he's in there? And I just assumed that they finally, knocked him out. And then it turns out he was gone. And I thought, oh, that just means that he's in the other room, or on the other side with them. And then it turns out, nope, he just got out through the vent. It was like, all he had to do was hit this guy in the head. And so many problems would have been solved from the beginning of the episode if they just knocked this guy out. But they're going through and constantly dealing with him, and then we find out that I want to say the guy's name was Vizago, if I remember right from when they got on the planet. He got busted and was sent to the crawler, and he of course thought that Kanan and everybody came in to save him, and it was like, oh, my friends, they came to save me and everything, and it's just like, yeah, we totally did. And then Kanan ends up having a pretty cool fight with I think they just called him like the Warden or something like that, and he had like this crazy electric whip, and Kanan ends up fighting him, and then Zeb has to come in and help him. And once again, this is where I talk about them fighting a lot of like jumpy characters in these two episodes. They had the tracker, the guy that was running the crawler ship. He was jumping around and stuff trying to fight them, and then the Warden guy was jumping around trying to fight them too, and he's like using his legs to fight against Zeb, and they're flipping over the banisters and holding on and kicking each other in the face. Like their fight lasted for a really long time. It was just crazy watching them, go through this fight. But it was definitely entertaining. So I really loved the action sequence there. Pretty much everything was cool with the stormtroopers and everything. Vizago kind of takes over as like the fake commander. When the stormtroopers come in, is able to kind of get them out of there and they're gone. And everything was fairly simple. And then it was like, oh crap! Well, now we can't even move the ship or get any of the stuff to work because the guy who ran the ship, crawled through the vent, and now he's messing with like the main component of the ship. So now Ezra has to deal with him, and they have their final fight sequence and stuff. And then, like I said, he got crushed, and Ezra made a joke, and I was like, kind of dark. But in the end, everything definitely worked out fine. And of course, they're able to get the information to Hera. They're able to get to Hera, and she's able to get the flight coordinates or the flight plans, I guess, back to the Rebel Command. So I thought it was two great episodes. I'm looking forward to checking out the next two. I believe there's two. I know one episode got recorded. Like I just got back from vacation, so that's why this review is so incredibly late, by the way. But I only saw that one episode got recorded, so I don't know if it was just like this week for whatever reason they only did one episode, or if the DVR was just being weird and it recorded the first episode and not the second one, because I know it was still only half an hour. So I'm gonna have to check that out and see if there's still two episodes that came out this week. But yeah, these are definitely two good episodes, and I kind of liked how different they felt because it was, the first part being so force based, especially, or I guess the second half of the first episode being like really force based. I really enjoyed that, and it kind of expanding to all of the characters where everyone's just freaking out like, how in the world did we get to the other side of the planet? Little stuff like that I just really enjoyed. And the whole action sequence, them on speed, I love speeder bikes. It's like my favorite vehicle in like all of Star Wars, so speeder bike chase, definitely cool. But yeah, like that whole sequence was really fun, and I assume that the bounty hunter that was sent after them, I have to assume that that's not the last time we're going to see that guy. He seemed familiar, so I don't remember if he showed up in one episode before or if it was just that species that I've seen before. But I was like, he seems really familiar, but at the same time, none of the dialogue was like, oh, it's that guy coming after us again. So I'm like, maybe it was just that species looks familiar, and it could totally just look like another different, like lizard sort of looking species. So that could be the case. But I was like, he seems interesting. He seems very capable. He's definitely capable as a fighter, and I guess piloting the speeder bike. I don't know if you call it piloting, but driving the speeder bike, he's definitely capable as a bounty hunter. So I don't think that's the last we've seen of him, and I'm kind of excited just to see that character come back because he seemed really cool, and that was in like a sort of a wide open situation where it's like they're basically in fields and stuff, and then they go through like the caverns with on the speeder bikes. And it's like, what would that do if he was there when they decide to infiltrate the next Star Destroyer or something like that, when they go to the next cargo ship that's owned or secretly run by the Empire, and then it's like, oh, we've been waiting for you, and he's there to try to take them down. So I would love to see that character come back, and I'm sure we will because he didn't get killed off and he just got introduced. So I think we're going to see more of him, and I'm definitely excited for that. But all in all, I thought these were two pretty good episodes. Looking forward to the next two. Of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about this one, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. And I would love to know what theories you guys have about what's going to happen with Kanan and, the whole element of the wolves, saying his name and, like, what that means as far as his importance to whatever's going to happen next. So it kind of scares me because I mentioned before with him finally getting the kiss from Hera, that hopefully that's not like that romantic death kiss sort of deal, the kiss of death. And then this is like, oh, he's got some insanely important role now. And they're seemingly teased it in the last season's finale where it was like, it seemed like he was going to die in that finale because of some of the stuff he was saying about like, I'm not always going to be here to teach you and all that stuff. So whenever somebody says that, it's like, oh, that's bad dialogue. So I don't know if that's the case where we should expect Kanan to die or something because he has to sacrifice himself for this grand thing or whatever. But I don't know. I hope that, of course, I hope that's not the case. But I would love to know your theories on what that means because, in my mind is like, I know all of this is going to just go into Rogue One, which goes into, the main original Star Wars trilogy. So it's like in my head, I'm trying to figure out what thing could the team do before the Rogue One stuff that is that grand sacrifice. Like, what is it that they can find out that leads to the Rogue One stuff? So I am very curious what's going to happen. Maybe it'll involve Saw Gerrera, because like I mentioned last time when he showed up, he still hasn't had like that crazy bad experience that led him to have like the part robot body when he eventually ends up in Rogue One with like the aspirator and stuff attached to his body and like the robot leg and all that. He's still 100% flesh and bone. So maybe it involves that somehow, I don't know. But I would love to know your theories and of course what you guys thought about these two episodes in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.